Hey everyone, Mark Kane here, where we bring you the latest and greatest tips and advice to help you grow your business. Today, we're talking about bootstrapping, and specifically, do you need a ton of money to start? I will show you how to bootstrap your business from the ground up and make your dream a reality. If you're an entrepreneur at heart, but have been held back by a lack of funding, this video is for you. I will share the steps to launch that dream, practical tips and pitfalls, strategies and mindset for bootstrapping your business from the ground up and turning it into a success while mitigating all the risks. I'll talk a little bit about my journey, how I got to where I am today, and before I cover the top 9 ways small business owners just like you fund their businesses and how to get the money your business needs to explode without breaking the bank, I'll give you what I think is the most critical concept to understand. You'll also get an inside look at how I bootstrapped one business where I raised $5 million for a pre-revenue startup with only $25,000 on a credit card. For those that don't know, bootstrapping is when an entrepreneur starts a business with little or no money, no outside investment or funding. Bootstrapping is when someone tries to create and build a business with their own money or the new company's operating profits. Bootstrap companies are run by entrepreneurs like you who need to create positive cash flow quickly to eliminate the need for external funding. Now, the concept is simple. Create a business model or strategy with limited resources using personal savings as the initial financing option. Now, before I share with you my entrepreneurial journey and my 7 simple steps to success as a bootstrapper, like everything else in life, there are pros and cons to bootstrapping. The pros are simple. Bootstrapping is inexpensive, so there's usually a low barrier to entry. Because you're your own boss, you get to make all the decisions. You have the autonomy and flexibility to grow your company as big or as small as possible. The cons can be a little bit more challenging. You might have a cash flow problem when bootstrapping. This is probably the biggest challenge with this approach. If you have multiple founders, equity issues may arise. Now, let me explain. So whoever puts up the money typically wants the biggest percentage of equity since it's their capital at risk. If that's not you, but you have the idea, you'll want the largest percentage yourself. I mean, that makes sense, right? So I'm telling you right now, you need to think long and hard about the equity split. The last thing that you want to do is come up with the idea and then end up buying yourself a job working for your equity partner. The next challenge or con is the possibility of failure is high when you bootstrap. So unless you're on drugs, you're probably going to notice increased stress levels, sleepless nights, over or under eating, snapping at your loved ones, having challenges meeting all of your financial obligations, and ultimately getting depressed. So as a bootstrapping entrepreneur, you've got to become resourceful and develop a versatile skill set to solve problems without outside financing and going crazy. So as promised, I'll share with you the 7 simple steps you need to take to be a successful bootstrapper. These are not necessarily in order, but you must take all these steps to get what you want. At the end, I'll also share my entrepreneurial journey and my formula for minimizing your risks so you don't lose it all. First, you must decide whether entrepreneurship is right for you and whether bootstrapping will work for your business model. Now, only you can know the answer. If I can give you one bit of advice that I can almost guarantee, whatever you think your project will cost, the actual number will be twice as much as projected, and it will take twice as long. I'm telling you, you're probably going to be done before your doors even open. Second, you've got to know your stuff. As I've mentioned, I self-funded all my companies and worked in every position initially. As the owner, I hired myself as the first employee, the head of marketing, I was the chief financial officer, head of customer service, and sales rep all simultaneously. Now, when you wear all the hats, you understand your potential customer quickly. And you soon find out if you have a viable product or service. The nice part is you can make changes on the fly that could ultimately save your business. Step number 3 can make or break you. As the owner, you need to look at yourself objectively as an employee and ask whether you, as the boss, would want you as the employee. In other words, are you doing everything you were hired to do? Would you keep yourself as an employee? If not, why not? The reverse is also true. Are you doing what an owner needs to do? So step 4, I learned this early in life. You cannot ask someone to do something you're unwilling to do yourself. You don't have to be the best at it, but you've got to be willing to do it. You've got to lead by example. So if you're unwilling to pick up that piece of paper off the floor, why should your employee? If you won't make the extra phone call at the end of the day, why would your sales rep when he sees you leave early? So you've got to lead by example. It just helped that I had a sense of what it entails. That way they can't BS you. In fact, I just watched an interview with Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. I was really surprised. He said to this day, he still edits his own videos every Saturday. The interviewer was like, really, you edit your own videos? And he said he does because he feels it's important to stay sharp and he doesn't want any of his employees to think that they can get anything over him. Makes sense. Step 6, talk about getting money. Bootstrapping is starting a business with only the money you have on hand, including savings and personal loans. Now, it could be from credit cards, could be retirement savings, family, friends. Remember, most businesses don't have conventional sources of outside capital like private equity, venture capital firms, crowdsourcing, and the traditional bank financing. So let's face it, unless your name is Zuckerberg, Bezos, Jobs, Musk, Gates, the odds of getting private equity or an angel investor is slim. So unless you're some digital overlord, technical developer, evangelist, guru, ninja, rockstar innovation, Serpa, growth hacker, or digital prophet, it's not happening. So let's put it in perspective as to how hard, and I want you to follow this, all right? A little bit of numbers here, but I want you to understand how hard it is to raise money. Shark Tank, we all know it, right? About 40,000 people applied to get on Shark Tank each season. Less than 1%, that's less than 400, get to go on the show. Now, 50 to 60% get a deal if they enter the tank, but a whopping 73% of the deals don't get the same deal they accepted on TV. Question, are you getting the sense that it's tough out there? So, a little bit more food for thought. The United States has approximately 4 to 5 million new businesses annually. Now, according to the SBA, the Small Business Administration, about 30,000 startups receive angel investments. All right, that's about 0.05%, not 5%, 0.05%, and about 1,000 receive VC funding, which is 0.02%. So listen, the odds are not good. Of the 4 to 5 million new startups each year, only around 60,000 new businesses are given SBA guaranteed loans from the banks every year. And that includes putting up collateral, such as your house or other major assets. So in perspective, that's only 1.2% of the 4 to 5 million new businesses each year. So why do I geek out with all these boring statistics? I want you to know that most startups and small businesses do not receive outside funding. Step 7, your attitude. My attitude was simple. When I launched my first business, I decided to live by 2 simple mottos. The first motto was I was going to work 8 till faint. So sometimes that meant till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and then starting again at 8 o'clock. Once I got the business rolling, I really made a seismic shift into my second motto, and that was I was only going to work half a day. All right? So think about it. I'm only going to work half a day. I decided to work 8 in the morning till 8 at night, and I did this 6, sometimes 7 days a week. So That's what I mean about attitude. So let's jump into it. Here's my entrepreneurial journey. Hopefully you can appreciate and understand a little bit about what I went through, and hopefully it helps you in your journey as well. In terms of my background, I was the antithesis of business through undergrad and graduate school. I'd get into these tremendous discussions, which really were arguments, with the MBA students at the University of Chicago, where I studied and earned my graduate degree in psychology. So while they discussed their starting six-figure salaries, I spoke about helping humanity. They were straight-laced with button-down suits and ties. I wore jeans, t-shirts, and seldom cut my hair. I worked for several years right out of grad school as a psychologist, and honestly, while my buddies were moving on up, they were buying new cars, affording things I couldn't even dream about, I ended up working below the poverty level. So you talk about paying the price. So I decided to make a significant change and leave the world of people problems to work with people's money problems. So I gave up my long hair and jeans for a career on Wall Street. I spent 17 years as a broker. Director of recruiting, training, director of human resources. I was a branch manager. I was a director of compliance for an investment banking firm. But after 17 years, I hit a wall. I was tired of working for someone else, and I decided I'd be much happier working for myself. So, like a lot of you, I always dreamt about making it out on my own. I'm sure that sounds familiar. I quit my six-figure job. I never looked back. Now, my friends, relatives, Wall Street associates, they all said the same thing, more or less. Are you crazy? So for my first venture, I decided to start a wholesale distribution company. I took $5,000 on my credit card, I bought some inventory, and the rest, as they say, is history. I built a sales force of nearly 1,000 reps nationwide and more than doubled what I was previously making. Was it easy? So keep listening, and I'm going to let you be the judge of that. So now what stands out in my mind are the first 2 months. So I wasn't just quitting and doing something else. I had a family, a mortgage, expenses that still needed to be paid. So bear with me. On the second to last day of the first month, I had 0 sales and my bills were over $10,000. So I ended up going into broker mode. I got on the phone and I sold like crazy. Same thing happened month 2. I don't understand why, but I'm new at this entrepreneur stuff, right? On the second to last day of month 2, again, no sales, but was able to make all my expenses. I covered everything. So the question I have for you now is, do you have what it takes to do that? Do you have the mental fortitude, the singular focus, the ability to handle the stress? You got to ask yourself, what if you went for 2 months without revenue? Could you survive? Can you handle your spouse yelling, "What the are you doing?" So being an entrepreneur sounds romantic, all right? Unless you've lived with the stress and the sleepless nights and the haunting questions like, what the am I doing? Is this a huge mistake? Now, I'm hooked on this entrepreneurship thing. I love the thought of building something new, and I decided it was time to try something else. That's when I discovered the internet. That's right, I found the internet. It was not Al Gore, contrary to his claims. A good friend of mine called me up at the time and he asked me what I was doing. Since timing is everything and I was looking for something new, he asked me what I knew about the internet. And I told him the truth, nothing. Now, bear with me, all right? Shocker, it's 1997. So he asked me if I wanted to learn together with him, and it was like, sure. We both worked 40-hour weeks to figure out how to make money on the net. Talk about the Wild Wild West. I can share some crazy stories another time about what it was like at the beginning. We decided we were internet marketing experts. Why not? So I took $5,000 on my American Express card to get my feet wet, trying to play the 30-day float on my marketing. I would buy ads and hope that I got paid on my efforts before my credit card bill was due. So before long, I was racking up charges on my credit card of $300,000 a month, and it was like, wow, this is working. But if something went wrong, I would have been unable to pay the bills, basically screwed. So do you ever feel that way? Well, for me, it became a lot more intense. I want you to listen carefully because here's where it either gets crazy exciting or crazy scary, depending on your appetite for risk. 7 years later, after months and months of research and literally looking at some 18 different businesses, I decided to build an online consumer loan business. I took $25,000 on a credit card. I hired an industry consultant to help me write a business plan, built a website, hired a company to outsource all of my back-end functions. I got my primary software developer to help me build a pro forma that was some 45 lines deep with formulas and variances, all for a promise of the future. With this pro forma, I'm ready now to analyze any scenario, good, bad, and different, but I'm also $25,000 in the hole with no money to lend. If I don't raise the money, I'm going to lose 25 grand. So here's the dilemma. Are you willing to risk $25,000 to make 1,000 times your money? And I'm not talking about swinging for the fences with your eyes closed, and it's not pie in the sky. This is a well thought out business plan. I asked everyone I knew if they wanted to lend me $1 million. As luck would have it, the sales rep who sold my back-end platform, he asked me, he said, "Mark, how's it going?" And I told him the truth. I said, "Everything's great, but my business is dead. It's not going forward. I'm sorry. I don't have any money to move forward. But if you have someone that I can talk to, and it's just, funny the way things happen." And I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was a Tuesday evening. It's about 8 o'clock at night. I'm told to call a private lender. So after explaining my plan to the lender and answering his 50 questions, he asked me how much money I needed. So I said, 10 million. Pretty gutsy, right? Now, I only needed $1 million, but I figured why not try? So here's a tip from someone who has raised money and someone who lends money. If you ask for it, make sure you can pay it back, no questions asked. You can't ask for $1 million if your business is projected only to make $150,000. Does that make sense? All right, back to the story. So he said, "I'll start you with $1 million and my lawyers will draft the agreement tomorrow. But I have one last question." And I'll never forget the question. "Are you willing to give me your home if you fail?" So let's stop right here. What would you do? Be honest with yourself. Would you say, "Let me think about it"? Would you say, "I need to speak to my spouse"? Would you just hem and haw a bit before mumbling something? Or would you do what I did? I said yes. However, it wasn't that I said yes, it's the fact that I said it immediately, quickly, confidently, without any hesitation. Understand that I didn't ask my wife. I didn't say, "Let me think about it." I didn't say, "The interest rates are too high." And I'm going to tell you about the interest rate in a few seconds. I didn't say, "I don't like the payment terms." I just said yes. Now, here's what I know. If I didn't respond immediately, I feared not securing the $1 million and I was going to lose the $25,000 investment. And so let's get back to the interest rate. It's 45%. Now, before you say, "I'm certifiably crazy," I want you to hear me out. This is what all successful entrepreneurs understand. They know their numbers. Over the years, I can't tell you how many business owners I've dealt with that will initially balk at the interest rates they must pay to secure a loan. Look, it's not like the money's going to be free and there's no risk, right? Regardless of the rate, you're always paying back the principal. So we agree with that, correct? So the interest rate is the cost of the business. It's an expense. My most successful clients understand this implicity. The interest rate or the fees are the investment in your business to grow, to get it to explode. All right, I ask every business owner who looks to borrow money the same question every time. What's the money going to do for you? I don't care if I give you 10,000, 100,000, or $1 million. I want you to tell me what it's worth after giving you the money. What is your ROI? What will that dollar be worth in a week, in a month, in a year? In other words, What will you do with the money, and what's the money going to do for you? Does that make sense? Not knowing the answer tells me you're not serious. All right, you must know your return on investment. That's your ROI. How do you have the kahunas to ask for the money and don't know what to do with it? How do you not think about what it will be worth in a week, in a month, or a year? Let's get back to the 45% interest on the loan. Why was I so willing to accept what seemed to be the worst terms under the sun? Personal guarantee on $1 million, my home, plus 45% interest. First, beggars can't be choosy, right? I'm a startup. I don't have a track record per se. If you're starting a business, I believe you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Now, how many people say to you right now, sure, here's the money you need. No, wait, I'm going to give you even more because you seem like a nice person. And don't worry, pay me back when you can. And if you can't, it's okay because I've got plenty more where that came from. It's not like I could walk into my friendly bank and ask for the money. More importantly, I knew my numbers. The lender drilled me on it. He wanted every number I forecasted. He wanted to know how I came up with every number that I forecasted. He wanted to know my confidence level in those forecasts as well. So I knew whether or not I could afford it or not. Remember, I had that pro forma to analyze any scenario, plug and play, so to speak. So he's talking, I plug in the 45% interest rate, and I realized I'm still profitable, so I knew this was the price to get into the game. So now in a minute, I'm going to share with you a story about a prospective client. He was a farmer, and it's a true story, and you'll understand where I'm coming from. So back to my crazy numbers. You have no idea how often my sheets were soaking wet 2, 3 in the morning because I was worried about whether or not I could make this month's interest and principal payment. And I'm thinking, what if, all right? What if this month's marketing is a flop? What if our forecasts were wrong? What if something unexpected happens in the market? And look, I'm not ashamed to admit that I was nervous, scared, and anxious. And this is all at the same time. Mind you, I was lending hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, and I'm spending $500,000 a month in advertising to boot. So you may have experienced this as well. So there were some nights of pure hell. It was challenging, to put it mildly. It's the stress of knowing that if the business fails, it's not just the business. If you think you might lose it, that's hard enough. Now there's the thought of losing your home, the roof over your family's head. Is it worth risking everything? In the hole for $1 million, lose your home, cars get repossessed, no income, can't pay the mortgage, can't afford rent, no place to live, start all over, game over. So you may have been or are currently in a situation like this. In a minute, I'm going to show you how to prevent that from ever happening. Some people wake up in the middle of the night and become immobilized with the thoughts of losing everything racing through your mind. I just want you to know that within 18 months, I actually turned that $25,000 credit card advance and that $1 million loan at 45% interest. And I got an additional $4 million from the lender. He gave me a discount. Now I'm at 42% because I paid every month on time. And I was able to turn that into an $18 million a year business, and I successfully sold it. So you might be wondering, how do I manage the risk of starting a business? Can I do it? The approach I take parallels my 17 years of Wall Street experience. I look at the business opportunity as an investment. In simple terms, I consider the monetary risks and the financial rewards. I'll give you the formula in a few minutes. So, the moral of the story. The lender told me the only reason he lent me the money was that I didn't hesitate for 1 second when he asked me for my house. That was it. If you're a business owner and you need money and someone asks you to guarantee it personally, don't hesitate. Unless you don't believe what you're doing is going to make it, then it would be stupid, all right? As a lender, I can promise you this. If you're not that confident in your business, why should I be willing to give you the money? I want you to think about that. You want me to hand over the money for a loan that you're seeking, but you don't have the backbone to say you believe in yourself. Now, I get it. That may be harsh, but it's reality. So here's the true story I promised. About 6 months ago, a farmer who owns about 800 acres was having a hard time. He had COVID, and it wreaked havoc on his farm. He's laying off his 36 employees, and he's starting to miss some payments. Now, he tells me he needs $250,000, and he's coming to me after being declined by 20 different lenders. Can you imagine? So he owns a significant amount of farm equipment. It's free and clear. So after we carefully evaluated, we decided to lend him $900,000 as a secured loan. Now remember, he only needs $250,000 for 60 to 90 days when he's got some large receivables that are going to come in. So we offer him $900,000 for a 4-year term at 15% interest, and he can prepay after 24 months. He declines the offer. Do you believe it? All right, so why? He tells me the interest rate is too high and he doesn't want to pay a loan for 2 years. He's about to lose a 25-year plus business that does well into the 7 figures in annual revenue. He clearly states that he's pulling the plug in a week if he doesn't get the money. Guess what? If he doesn't believe in his business, if he can't figure out how to use the money he needs, plus another $650,000, then I no longer believe him. Something else is going on. I don't want any part of it. He's done. Good luck. So, as I promised you, here's my formula to mitigate the risks. The first question you must ask yourself: how much capital am I willing to invest in this business? The second question is, what am I willing to lose? You got to think about that. All right? Is this like going to Vegas and putting all the chips on red? And thirdly, what is the potential profit percentage or ROI, return on investment? Then I think about starting a business. I see it as an investment, as an opportunity. I think about the investment no differently than when I purchase stock, like Apple or Amazon. None of this YOLO, you only live once garbage. I think this is perhaps the most critical concept to understand. In other words, if you were to buy or invest in a stock, you want to know the current price, right? Okay. So you want to know what the profit potential is as well as the risks, right? So if the stock is $10 and you think after careful analysis the stock can go to 12, well, that's not bad. It's a 20% return. Is it worth the risk if you think the stock can drop by $5? So that's a 50% loss. In other words, would you risk $5 to make $2? I doubt it. So the flip side is, if you think the stock long-term can go to $30, is it worth risking $5? In other words, would you risk $5 to make $20? So the question now is, what amount of money would you invest in a stock or business to realize the gain? That's the easy part. The tricky part: determine how much you're truly willing to lose. It's easy if it's only $5. But what if you're investing $100,000 in a new business? Can you stomach a $50,000 loss? $100,000? The challenge is knowing when to cut your losses. So whenever I make an investment, I start thinking, how much am I willing to invest? And perhaps more importantly, how much can I or am I willing to lose? So the question is, how do you know when to close down your business? When do you call it quits? I'm telling you, you've got to be highly disciplined to accomplish this. Unfortunately, most people lack the mental toughness to make these decisions. Most people have a problem becoming emotionally invested in their business. So I want you to really marinate on this. Your desire to be right and your desire to make money become linked. All right? Your desire to be right and your desire to make money become linked. Your willingness to be right becomes more important than your desire to make a profit. When that happens, it's game over. Starting a business and shutting it down is like buying and selling stocks. This approach has worked well for me. You need to know your numbers. You need to know how long you can last with your current churn rate. Churn rate means how many months can you survive at your current spending levels. Look, losing some money is okay. Losing all of it and not being able to try again, that's not. This doesn't mean going home empty-handed, and it doesn't mean you can't cut costs. You can make layoffs. You can downside. It's hard, but you can do it. All right. You got to take a knife to the fat and you got to get through to another day. Trust me, you can do this. Remember, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. So as I promised you initially, here are the top 9 ways to fund your dream. You're going to hear a lot of people out there tell you all sorts of things. I've been on both sides of the coin. I've needed money and I lend money. All right. I'm telling you, numbers 1 and 2 are your best options if you are a pure startup. Number 1 is business credit cards or personal credit cards. By far the easiest. Number 2, retirement accounts. You got to know that there is a way you can get your IRA or 401k money without a penalty. There's a lot of hoops you got to go through. It's well worth it. And number 3, the 3 F's. Family, friends, or fools. I talk about this a lot, all right? Just be wary that the thing that you don't want to have happen is sitting down at the table with family or friends, Thanksgiving, Christmas, wherever, whenever, and have them looking at the fork and knife and wanting to stick it in you because you didn't come through for them. Number 4 is crowdsourcing. Now, honestly, I think you need a somewhat unique product or service with some universal appeal or a phenomenal niche. And I'm not sure if you're a house painter that it's going to fly for crowdsourcing. Nothing against house painters. I'm just using that as an example. Another one is invoice financing. That's the 5th one. Now, what most experts ignore, I mean, they all tell you the same thing. You know, invoice financing if you're a startup. You got to have invoices. They need to be consistent. And most factors want to see around $25,000 a month minimum. So in my opinion, you're way past the initial startup phase if you have larger unpaid invoices. Number 6 is merchant cash advances. Some lenders will lend you money if you've only been in business for a couple of 3 months and making only a few $1,000s a month. So that may be an option for you. Number 7, the bank or SBA loans. I mean, good luck, especially in light of what's going on with banking as we speak. You need to have great credit. You have to have lots of collateral. They want you to have skin in the game, tax returns, not to mention filling out probably literally some 28 different documents. It'll take you about 28 hours, and no joke, you'll visit probably at least 3 banks. Number 8 is venture capital or angel investors. I just want you to remember what I said earlier. Slim to none right here. And then you have online or alternative lenders like Sunwise Capital. Speaking for ourselves, we typically want to see at least 6 months in business and doing around $15,000 in monthly revenue. So obviously not the pure startup. In conclusion, bootstrapping can be a great way to start or build your business without breaking the bank. It does require patience and dedication, but with the right mindset and techniques outlined in this video, you could take advantage of bootstrapping and turn your vision into a reality. Bootstrapping may be tough at first, but stick with it and you'll realize it's one of the most rewarding ways to fund your business. So there you have it. Remember, it's always important to do your research, understand what the heck you're doing. If you have any questions or you need more information, certainly leave a comment below. We'll be certain to get back to you. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more growth tips and advice on growing your business. And until next time, remember, you are not alone.